Hello and welcome to With the Braintrust. We are a small business networking group that's been meeting close to 6 plus years. Just networking, sharing everything we know, sharing things we've learned. And what we've recently done over the last 8 meetings is turn the last half of our meeting into a podcast, which just a way for other small business owners, other entrepreneurs to hear the stuff that we're going through to hopefully benefit them in their journey. So before we do that, I'd like to introduce everyone with the Braintrust. Let's do just a quick one sentence of who we are. Lita, do you mind going first?
Sure. Hi, my name's Lita Bunting. I own Snimka Creations, a digital photo management company.
Thank you. Rosetta?
I'm Rosetta Metz with Let Us Organize. We provide solutions to all your organizational needs for your home or your business.
Corey?
Corey Friedman, CF Financial, work with small and medium-sized businesses and a range of financial issues, interim fractional CFO, budgeting, financial planning, and analysis.
Thank you. And Andy, are you good?
Yeah. Andy Nathan, Creative Smart Contractors. We take your property from Matt. So, wow. I'm on my way over to go see a property right now. So,
thank you. And I am Michael Rattay, Ball Brain Creative, imaginative photos and videos to share your story. And that is the issue that I came to the group with today. About 2 years ago, I did a separation of branding to do family side of the business. When I moved out to the burbs, I thought it was I was meeting more families, so I wanted to introduce that to my business. But now I still want to have a business side of my business, if that makes sense. And so what I've been struggling with recently, the name Ball Brain Creative is, to me, it was clever. You know, I almost think it was too clever for its own good. And so I've been debating on what to do. I was thinking about changing it, about adding, I don't know, but everything goes through a rebranding process. And so earlier today, and unfortunately we didn't record it, but we had a great conversation about branding. And the whole meaning of this group is for when we have issues, we bring it to the group so you get a sounding board. So I originally was thinking I need a new name, but then Lita or Rosetta, does anyone else want to jump in on what your thoughts were on branding?
Well, I know when we were talking about it, I was just saying that you needed to be clear on your message and your messaging to what your product is, so that if your name is involved, then you want to make sure that the branding that you're putting out there, the messaging and the branding should be this, that's what your branding is, your messaging, should reflect that.
Perfect.
And what I remember, we did talk about how, sometimes the company name reflects like what you do, but in other times there are company names that are kind of like random words. Like I think Corey mentioned Kinko's. Like Kinko's doesn't really mean anything to any of us, but we all know what they do. So one thing we didn't talk about was there's a tagline that people sometimes have that go with their company name that kind of explains a little bit more about what that company does. So I don't think it's as important what the company name is as what you do, how you project yourself, your values, how your messaging and all that. And I think that's what kind of came out of that earlier conversation.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Corey, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, there just has to be a consistency between, regardless of what the name is and, what you're offering, right? Because it's all going to be related in some ways, correct? So it's just, you obviously don't want to get yourself, market things or have names that just, cause like a negative connotation, but whatever your name is should in some ways harmonize with what you're, kind of like how you're going about things and so forth.
Yeah. See, so all these things, it's funny too, because like, I think 2 weeks ago, I was debating with somebody because they had their LLC that was different. And they were wondering about their name, and I was telling them, well, yeah, just go for it. Like, you'll figure it out. But here, and my biggest struggle is that I was debating, the thing with time is obviously you know more, so you can almost get in your way more because then you think you're like, well, I know this answer, but this isn't the right way to do it. And so that was sort of where I was struggling, because now that you have a perspective to like maybe rebrand or whatever, that was, I guess, my biggest struggle. So, but what you guys were saying is exactly how I was believing in it. Andy, how about you? You want to say something?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so, I mean, I was thinking about this, by the way, and, I'm on the road, so it's giving me new perspective. So one of the things that, I had mentioned, I told you before, like, so I created my initial company, because of the fact that I already had the website domain and I didn't have enough money to buy another domain. When Bernie and I started working together, we basically just combined our names. But one of the things that we did that was interesting is it's Creative Smart Contractors, but we also have a Creative Smart Investments. We talked about starting a realty company. It'd be Creative Smart Realty. If we wanted to put everything under one umbrella, it'd be Creative Smart Businesses. So one of the things I would say to you is maybe you need full brain business and just like have it as a division or something like that. That way you're doing a rebrand, but you're not starting from scratch. Because like for me,
Yeah.
like this is what I was saying, like I when you don't have a lot of money, it's almost a good thing, because then you focus on getting leads. Because the
Yep.
best thing you could do for your brand is get business and then show that business that you could do something. I mean, that to me was the greatest, because the first client I had was a testimonial. I was able to get more clients. And then, it's also, you start off and you build it from there. And I think that's really what I see as the best way of doing it, is you really have to just build that up. But, don't start over if you don't have to. Just leverage what you have. Like, because that's kind of what you were saying before, is that, look, I've been doing this long enough. So if you need a pivot, that's okay. But pivot with what you have, so you don't have to start from scratch.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, so if you had your Ball Brain Productions or whatever, Ball Brain Creative is your top one, and then you have your Family Photo Creative, or it's Creative Family Photos, right? Something like that. And then your other one would be Creative Business, whatever it is.
Yeah. Bold Brain Business was like that's kind of been the one that I was kicking around, but then I was also like, well, Ball Brain. But so yeah, so that's that. Andy said it. We'll see. That's, I guess, 2 marks on the tally for what might be a good name for it. Lita, do you have anything else, or do you want?
No, I mean, I just like the thought of starting from scratch, like gives me a knot in my stomach, and you already have a basis. So, like, if I wouldn't start from scratch. Like, I don't have the bandwidth for that.
No, that's exactly where I felt. Like, that's why every starting over, I'm just like, ugh. It's like, I don't want to. But
it's
yeah,
more or less creating your messaging and just being so clear on it and so succinct, and knowing that it just getting out what it is that you're doing for somebody, and that bring it back where Corey says, make sure it's all cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, have you thought about I don't know what, like, in making the change, like, do you feel like you've kind of batted it around pretty thoroughly? Like, whether to keep it, change it, modify it slightly or something like that? Like, or do you feel as if like you're in the early innings? Because like anything, you don't want to necessarily rush to do it. And
Right.
if you have the space or time or availability to like, process what that means, and so before you go, just make sure you kind of went through, some kind of full, whatever, analysis, thought, and so forth.
Well, and that was also why I started the other aspect, the family side, creative family memories, because I was like, well, let me just that was like rebrand, restart. And I was like, let me just see, where I can take that. And so once I had the space, then I was like, all right, now what makes sense? Because it was like I was still getting all the business. I'm still doing all this business stuff, and but it's under this Creative Family Memories. I'm like, well, that's confusing too. And so that's why I'm like, all right, I need to just be branding those as Ballbrain, even though if someone hires me through the family thing, but if it's explicitly a business project, like that's the brand. And so that's where, so yes, I'm separated, but I'm like new at this, but also old with thinking about this. But I mean, but you guys are like, honestly, I mean, this is why I've been wanting to do this, because you guys have given me sort of the best perspective wholly, where I think every other person has like, one or two points that they add to something. And I was like, okay, yeah, but there's still all these other questions. And you guys have kind of answered all those other questions, like just instinctively, because you guys are also in the same boat. And so, yes, starting over makes us sick, because you're like, gosh, I've been doing so much stuff. Like, why the hell am I starting over? But so thank you guys. That was, that helps. And yeah, I don't know, Corey. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think that's a good idea. So, so branding, I guess the main point that I'm kind of gathering from this, and just does anyone have any final thoughts, or do you want me to kind of succinct this up? Yep. So basically, what I was gathering and what I have told people that were fretting about their name, I was like, just do it and then you'll figure it out. And that's basically what everyone has told me, is just just do it. Make sure you have your values. I think this is where Rosetta and writing things down is so imperative, because you write it down, you can actually see it, you understand what your values are, your mission statement, and then that feeds through my other thing. But I think naming is such a huge, I think so many business people get stuck on that. And so while we're getting stuck on that, we're not doing what Andy mentioned, which is getting new business. And I think as a business owner, as long as you can keep getting new business, that's basically what that's the lifeblood of what you're doing. So it's important to do that. So branding, make sure you have a name, but at the same point, you got to just make sure everything you're doing goes to feed into that, and that's what you got. So it's obviously way bigger than this, but I want to at least give somebody something brief.
Yes, it is.
Like a 15-minute conversation isn't all you have, but I think it hits on a lot of the issues that most people will be having. So I think that's the benefit of at least saying that. So it might even need to be out the name, so no one buys. I'll have to buy the domain before I release this, in case anyone. But that's the thing, I don't want to buy a new domain, and that's where I'm like, I don't want to. So, anyways, you guys, this has been a drop in the bucket of marketing and branding, but I think it also covers some of the high level stuff that if you have those answers, you can just move forward. And moving forward is really the only way to go in any business. So whatever is forward, and then figure out all these other stuff later. So anyone have anything else to add to that, or is that about it?
Sounds good.
Cool.
Great.
All right. Thanks everyone for hanging out, and see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.